Let's start with the core concept, five-dimensional education. It's built on this idea that human potential, our talents, they can actually be maximized through education. Okay, so where did this all start? Let's look at the person behind it.
Right. So the source talks about a scientist. And pretty unexpectedly, they became vice president of Yanbian University of Science and Technology. This was about 25 years ago.
A scientist, though, not an educator originally.
No, that's the interesting part. Zero background in education, apparently. You could say that. And initially, things went really well at Yanbian University.
How so?
Well, they implemented this sort of dedicated, focused education, and it worked. The university climbed into the top 100 in China. They produced some really outstanding graduates. Applying that scientific mindset, the speaker started analyzing the data, looking hard at the outcomes over, I think it was 3
Where
years.
did the data show?
Well, this was the surprising bit. The conclusion was that education, at least as it was being done traditionally, it wasn't fundamentally changing everyone.
Right, not everyone. And that's key.
It's a really pivotal moment in the story. What the data showed, intriguingly, was that, yeah, some students did great, but often they were the ones who were already high achievers when they enrolled.
Ah, okay, so the one's already set up for success.
Pretty much. And conversely, the students who came in struggling academically, well, they didn't really show that same significant leap forward,
Even with the focused educational efforts.
even with the efforts. And this really sparked a concern for the speaker, a feeling that, hang on, are we overlooking a whole bunch of students here? Are the standard methods just not reaching them?
Yeah, that's a big question. So that led them to dig deeper, to figure out why.
Precisely. Why weren't some students benefiting? And the analysis pointed to 5 main reasons.
Okay, so those five things, they're pretty significant barriers.
They really are. And understanding these, seeing how they block learning, that was the breakthrough. It showed that just delivering content isn't enough. You have to address these underlying issues.
So that's where five-dimensional education came from. It was designed specifically to tackle these five obstacles.
That's the core idea. It's a system built to recognize and overcome these limitations.
So how did they test it? Did they just roll it out?
Well, they did something pretty bold. They called it a risky experiment.
Risky how?
They deliberately chose to work with students considered to have, well, low academic potential, not the high flyers.
Ah, okay. So not aiming for easy wins.
Exactly. And they did this over a 20-year period across different countries, different settings, really testing it in challenging situations.
It shows some serious commitment to proving the concept.
Definitely. It meant any success would be genuinely significant, not just cream skimming.
So what was the first big success story then?
That came from Yanji City Number 2 Middle School in China. They took students who were really struggling academically and applied these five-dimensional principles.
How did that go down? Was it accepted easily?
Actually, no. There was resistance at first because part of the approach involved reducing the hours spent on traditional studying.
Reducing study time. That must have raised eyebrows.
Oh, absolutely. It goes against that ingrained belief, right?
Yeah,
That more hours automatically equals better results. People were skeptical.
I bet. So what happened?
The results, according to the speaker, were pretty miraculous. That class ended up achieving the top rank in the entire school.
The top rank from the
Yeah.
struggling students.
Yes. And more than half of them got excellent scores on the National College Entrance Exam.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive.
The big takeaways seem to be that this human-centered approach, focusing on the student and removing those barriers, it worked. Even with less traditional study time, it led to massive positive change.
Okay, so that was China. Where next?
Mongolia. They worked with the Bright Future Comprehensive School. This was a school for disadvantaged kids, a really tough environment.
So applying the same principles there.
Yes, and again, the results were striking. The students achieved average scores on national tests that were way higher than expected, even higher than regular schools.
Which probably caused some confusion.
It did. It actually raised suspicion initially from the education authorities, like, how is this possible?
Understandable, I guess.
But then came the evaluation, and it was positive.
Yeah.
It highlighted how important it was that the school understood the students' difficult circumstances and worked to improve those alongside the teaching.
So it wasn't just academics, it was holistic.
Exactly. That seemed to be the key. And following that, the Speakel's book got translated into Mongolian, the methods spread, and it eventually led to the founding of Mongolia International University in 2002.
A whole university based on these principles.
Apparently so. And now it's considered one of the top universities in Mongolia.
That's quite an impact, from a school for disadvantaged kids to a leading university.
It really shows the potential scalability moving across different cultures and socioeconomic levels.
And the international spread didn't stop there?
No, the source mentions Tibet, also Laos National University, then also the US, and quite a focus on Africa, too.
Africa. Where specifically?
10 unionized schools were set up in Tanzania, with plans mentioned for Rwanda as well.
So, a really diverse range of places.
It certainly suggests the proponents believe it's a widely applicable framework.
Okay, let's bring it back to South Korea. How was it implemented there?
Well, a key example is Seine High School, founded back in 1999.
Seine High School. What was special about it?
It was set up specifically for students who had pretty much given up on school, really disengaged. The initial university entrance rate was less than 5%.
Wow, less than 5%. That sounds incredibly challenging.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It highlights that focus on reaching students who are falling through the cracks of the traditional system.
So, what happened at Seine? Did the five-dimensional approach work there too?
The results were dramatic. Within just 3 years, that university entrance rate jumped from under 5% to 92% of graduates going on to their desired universities.
92%. That's an incredible turnaround.
It really is. The name Seine apparently means human embracing the world, which kind of reflects the broader goals beyond just academics.
It suggests the approach really re-engaged those students.
That's certainly the implication, helping them not just catch up academically, but preparing them for their next steps.
Any other examples in Korea?
Yes, Dongdushin Middle and High School, starting around 2000, also described as a challenging educational environment. The speaker actually served as principal there for a year.
And the impact.
Again, positive changes were observed and, importantly, sustained over the next 2 decades. It wasn't just a flash in the pan.
20 years of positive impact.
Yeah, and it culminated in the school being recognized by EBS, the educational broadcaster, in 2017. They call it a leading school for future education, even featured it in a documentary.
Okay, so recognition at a national level.
Yeah.
That adds weight.
It does. It suggests long-term, verifiable, positive effects within the public school system.
Now, there's a connection to KAIST, the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, right? How does that fit in?
Right. So, starting in the early 2000s, KAIST began this major initiative to develop national future strategy reports, thinking long-term about the country's direction.
The top science and tech university looking at national strategy. Makes sense, okay. And how does five-dimensional education connect with that?
The connection really solidified around 2014. There was this collaboration between the speaker and KAIST. A 2-year study involving over 100 scholars. A really comprehensive look at what kind of education the nation needed for the future.
And a conclusion.
The report's main conclusion was that five-dimensional education is the key to fostering the kind of talent Korea needs going forward.
Wow, that's a pretty strong endorsement from a major national study.
It certainly gives the approach significant weight and credibility, suggesting a consensus among many experts involved.
So what happened after that report? Did it lead to action?
Yes, 2 specific initiatives followed. One was the establishment of TGA Global School,
Okay.
and the other was a school set up in direct affiliation with KAIST itself. Both were designed specifically to nurture talent aligned with those future needs identified in the report.
So practical models putting the report's findings into action.
That's the idea. And the source mentions that the early results from these schools are looking positive.
Okay, so that brings us more or less up to the present in terms of the history.
Yeah.
Where's the focus now?
The main focus currently is on sharing these ideas, this five-dimensional education framework, more broadly
With who?
with parents, with the general public, and very importantly, with teachers, drawing on those 25 years of experience applying it overseas.
Right.
The speakers certainly believe so. They argue these aren't just for career success, but are fundamental to genuine happiness, to being able to overcome life's challenges.
Interesting perspective.
And the core message for educating very young children within this framework is apparently love. That's the absolute foundation.
Love is the foundation.
Yes. The five-dimensional structure then provides guidance and methods, but it's all built on that essential base of love. That genuine, positive results in education seem to grow from that foundation of love.
Exactly. Something for all of us, you included, to think about the potential of education that's truly centered on the human being.